CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy.
Welcome to the third segment of our Conversations on African Philanthropy with me, Begin Kosmoyo. I'm excited to be doing this conversation with the team that focuses on our special programs at CAPSI. Previously, we looked at the academic functions, we looked at research, and I want us now to focus on some of the special initiatives that CAPSI also does. So CAPSI does other things as well. One of those has to do with the Women in Philanthropy initiative, and I'm joined by Thandi Makhubele, and I would want you to give us a sense of who you are, your background, and how you ended up at CAPSI.
Okay, thank you, Prof, and good afternoon, everyone. How did it start? So I started in arts like Bricks. He mentioned it earlier when he was doing his podcast. And then I later joined SABC. I was there for quite a number of years. And in my search to find something more than just work, but a career, something that will be more fulfilling, I started looking for work around the space of human rights, and then I stumbled into a position on philanthropy. And because this is not a name that's widely used for Africa when we describe giving, doing good, I researched and I said, okay, what's this philanthropy? I'm looking for something on, helping other people and all that. And I thought, Wits University, it's not really somewhere where I think that will be more fulfilling. It's just going to be another job. And I took a leap of faith. I went to an interview and I started as an administrator. And a year later, then I went into program management, and then I went into Women in African Philanthropy. I have a degree. My undergrad and honors are in international relations, and then I did my master's focusing on human security and philanthropy, focusing on women in agriculture and how they work with donors in that space.
Thank you. Let's move on to Sfiso Lubisi. Sfiso, you joined us from one of our sister institutions, but you are responsible for the administration in my office currently. And the reason why I thought you would sit here within the team that speaks on special initiatives is because of the role that you play when it comes to doing administrative functions around events, around some of our flagship initiatives, for example, the upcoming conference, the work around setting up around whether it's the podcast, whether it's Kisima related events. Talk to us also about your own background and also what you are currently involved in. I know you are also doing your master's now.
Yes, Prof.
And for some reason I'm supposed to be your supervisor. so let's talk about that. Yeah.
So thank you, Prof, for this moment. I'm really humbled to be here in this auspicious occasion to record with you. So my name is Lubisi Sfiso, as stated. I've always been forward from a young age, but in a positive way. So I started my career with UNISA in 2017. I was sitting in the Senior Director for Teaching and Learning, where I was responsible for administrative functions, within an order systems or spectrum of the university. Then later on, a year later, then I was fully involved in constructing the curriculum of humanities with Dr. Silit Abana and Dr. Marinke Madwepa. Then later on, I felt like I'm young, it's very depressing to work with old people because I need to focus on the trends, especially in higher education because things are really moving at a fast pace. Then I looked around and UJ was one of the universities that really offered me to be myself as a young person, to have fun, but also to equip me with necessary skills that I will need in the roles that I've taken upon myself. Then last year, of course, October, I joined you at CAPSI. when I came for interview, I didn't really understand what CAPSI is, but I've read a lot about being it a Pan-Africanist unit. And for me, it was so fascinating because I'm fully involved in linguistics, and linguistics apparently is the scientific study of language. And I don't know where culture fits, because at some point they talk about culture. But for me, I wanted something to integrate my skills in language in sociolinguistics aspect, and CAPSI was giving me that because I've been exposed to the nature of African countries, how they function, and also understanding the socially acquired knowledge, which is culture at some point. So I'm responsible for special projects and administration in your office. There's Kisima, there's the podcast, and also to oversee the overall administrative functions that are given to me. And yeah, that's
Great.
Sfiso.
So we'll come back to some of your experiences working with an old person.
Yeah, like yourself.
Like myself.
Thank you.
But let's move on to our special guest, Mudiwa Gavaza. The first time I met Mudiwa and his colleague Kuklano, it was, for us, just beginning to think about the podcast. And at that time, we had approached several professional bodies that offer services around this. But the expense that we were getting to do this was just out of this. It was out of our league. We couldn't afford it. And we just started having conversations with Val and the colleagues there, and they then said, "Oh, we can try something together." And that's how our journey actually began with Mudiwa and Kuklano. We'll have a conversation with Kuklano at some point later during the year. But I just wanted you to talk to us about yourself, because when we started, honestly speaking, I thought you were just somebody who presents radio and you just do camera. And later on, my goodness, I discovered this man is an economist. He also runs his own podcast. So tell us about yourself. What did you study? What's your experience? And how did you end up in this space?
Thank you so much, Prof. So I've been in the WITS ecosystem since 2017, but I've never formally done any course here. My alma mater is Rhodes University. Studied BCom in Economics and Information Systems, postgrad in Enterprise Management, Masters in Business Administration. I'm an economist, like you said. My passions lie at the intersection of technology, media, telecoms. That's my speciality. But in all of the stuff that I've always done, it's always happened, around that. Before TMT, what I just said, I always used to say technology, media, and business. That's, as long as I can do something along those lines, then it's going to be good. So being at VOW FM, hosting the business show, but I've also been running a production company since 2013 with my partner, Godfrey. And when this opportunity came up, podcasts are one of the things that we had already been specializing in. So it seemed like a natural fit. And initially, I have some experience in the NGO sector, having been part of Lions Club International for almost 20 years now. My parents are big in that space, so that was my exposure. But getting into this space, it opened up a completely different view, on what philanthropy is, the type of storytelling that can happen in this space. And I'm really glad that it's a path that we've been able to go down. And as an economist, it's also been quite fascinating to also see, I guess, the funding mechanisms more than anything else. And I think the question around sustainability is something that I always listen out for. When we were at Rhodes, the motto for Rhodes University is where leaders learn. But at Rhodes Business School, they baked sustainability inside a long time ago. So it was leadership for sustainability. So that issue of people, planet, profit, seeing it in practice is always quite interesting. Yeah. And that's why I've picked your brain a number of times. Social enterprise, all of these things. So quite interesting, field, and I think there's huge scope. And I'll just pick on something that Sfiso said: the Pan-African nature of something like CAPSI. For ourselves as a business, myself and Kutlwano, it's really been great to have that broad exposure to what's going on the continent.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that you probably did not say, and maybe you are humble about it, and you demonstrated this, I think last year in Cape Town, is that you write for the financial, is it the Financial Mail or the Business Day?
The Business Day,
the Financial Mail. So we're walking into the airport, about to check in. There's the newspaper pile there, and his article is on the newspaper, and he just walks past it, and like he's one of those
that was just so funny. I remember now.
Yeah, but maybe talk a bit about that part of your writing, because I don't think that many colleagues actually are aware. But if they are aware, maybe they never made the connection between your name and the writings. Maybe talk a bit about that and what has been the experience for you. Because you're talking to a big audience of business people, and as you know, business is also the foundation for philanthropy. I mean, cannot be philanthropy, at least from a financial point of view, without the private sector.
So one of the things I always talk about is that when I came to Joburg in 2017, I thought I was going to be an investment banker or a consultant. Think Bain McKinsey, that type of thing. Fortunately or unfortunately, that world wasn't taking me the way that I wanted to. But I had previous experience in the media space and business programming, that type of thing, and that gave me entry into. I spent 6 months at Gibbs. So I've been to Rhodes, I've been to Gibbs. I spent 6 months at Gibbs. It was a course that was funded by Bloomberg. And interestingly, it was part of Bloomberg Philanthropies, right? That's who funded, my 6 months at Gibbs. And through that, it gave me a bridge into the world of what some people call financial journalism. I'm still practicing as an economist, but, plying my trade through this, and through that experience I met my first editor, who then brought me on to Sunday Times. I was in the Business Times section, so there's a Sunday Times, Business Times, and he taught me how to write. He was like, I can see you're good at writing because you're academic, but there's a certain way that we need to communicate to investors, to the public and that type of thing. So he taught me, and then about 6 months later, a position opened up. At the time, Business Day and Financial Mail were running sort of concurrently. So I got a position, and it allowed me to then start writing, for both. And like I said, my specialization is technology, media, and telecoms companies. We report a lot on companies, what's going on in the space. The biggest companies I cover: MultiChoice, Naspers, Telkom, Vodacom, Cell C, and MTN. Those are if anything happens with these ones, broad exposure, lots of experience in the space, but also the economy as well. I do a lot of that in the economy. So I think it's really been good for me. I would like to believe that I have a broad mindset when it comes to when it comes to business. And once again, I keep coming back to philanthropies, as an economy unto itself, and how it fits into the broader landscape and ecosystem. Nowadays, even one of the things that I've found is there's a lot of focus on ESG, right? And there's a lot of intersects between what's going on in the ESG space, in the philanthropy space, in the grant-making space, and what people consider the NPO, NGO space. So now I feel like the exposure to CAPSI and what you guys are doing here has enriched how I even, think about some of the reporting that we have to do on that side, because nowadays companies are doing a lot more of that type of reporting. But I think I have a richer lens to interrogate what it is that they're doing, to say, surely there must be a better way that, you can do this.
So, I was actually thinking earlier on when we were speaking to Polani, and you were saying he's a web developer, and information scientist and all of that. And I'm thinking there are so many skills here and the expertise that we are not harnessing. And as I'm speaking to you, one of the things that we probably have not written from a journalistic or popular format is philanthropy and business, and that's something that potentially I could challenge you to write on, because I think as we were also speaking to the academic segment earlier, we really want people who are working in the corporate sector, especially the people who are in the corporate social responsibility, to begin also thinking about how they can take some of our courses, some of our modules. But the way to getting to them could be through these short opinion pieces on the intersection between philanthropy and business. And you already been writing in that space, and that's something that could easily be something we think about. Sfiso, maybe let me come to you and talk to you a bit about some of your experiences. Firstly, you joined CAPSI, and everyone has been saying it's a fast pace. Is that real? That's number one. Number two, you have had the opportunity to be part of, a high pace organization of, 2 international conferences. What would be the takeaway lessons for you that you would share with your other colleagues who are in the administrative unit?
So for me, Prof, it's always been doing what is required from you on day-to-day duties. And if there's one skill that I've mastered throughout my 7 years experience in higher education, it's always been multitasking and communicating to relevant stakeholders, and also creating healthy relationships. For instance, now I had to organize one of the big convenings with MasterCard. I had to fly people. I had to accommodate people. I need to feed people. So one of the lessons that I've learned is never think, and always try to be humbled. And also, if you don't know things, just ask, because there's these words that you always say that a man sitting down can see like beyond. For me, it was one of the lessons that I've tagged with me up to now, to say that regardless of the things or experience that I think I have, but it's always nice to go to the old generation, so-called old people like yourself, to ask about things, and also aligns with my administrative functions on day to day. So that was one of the takeaway lessons, but also being exposed to young people like myself, because I'm the youngest at our unit. I will always brag with that. I work with old people. I'm the youngest.
Is he still the youngest?
Yes.
Is Tepo not the youngest?
By default, probably. So for me, Prof, it has always been fascinating to learn from the old generation, to take this mindset of saying, I know, even though I know. But I'm grateful that at CAPSI I work with old people that are mentoring us. It's always been one of those greatest lessons, because you are young at the space where there's old people, but then you don't see yourself growing. So mentorship, Prof, in broader spectrum has been one of the takeaway lessons in preparing this event.
Yeah. So by old people is referring to me and Professor Martin. So that we are clear. Everyone else is still young. It's just me and Professor Martin. But thank you. I think you were referring to, I think it's a Chinua Achebe proverb that says, what an old man sees sitting down, a child cannot see while standing on a mountain. Is it a what? Iroko tree. Yeah, so that's really something that I live by, because I also have to go to the wiser, the elders, who I also learn from. And I've learned a lot about just humbling myself and just learning and hearing from them, so that, because there are things that I cannot see, even if I climb on top of the mountain.
That's true.
But because they've been there, they've gone past and through those experiences, they are able to just advise me like that. Thandi, tell us a bit about the journey towards the Women in Philanthropy Initiative, and then after that, maybe talk to what is the philanthropy initiative on women focusing on, and what are the next steps?
Okay, so the journey, like I said, my master's was focusing on women in farming, but focusing on rural women in Limpopo, a few districts in Limpopo, just to see how they interface with philanthropy. And what I found is that most of them don't even understand where to start to get funding or to get resources, or even to know how to approach donors. So that made me start thinking, okay, so how do we help these women be on the table? Because we always talk about we need to bring people to the table, or they must bring their own chairs. But if there's no information readily available for them, then it means they will never be able to even bring a chair to the table. So I have been in conversation with Prof. Then that I'm interested in this. And then there was an opportunity that opened at CUNY. That's the City University, New York. And I applied and I got the fellowship for about 3 months. And I focused on women in philanthropy, but I was focusing more also on the different elements of giving across Africa. And then when I came back, because you need to implement what you learn, what you wrote about, I started thinking, okay, we need to implement something that will be focused on women at CAPSI, but not something that will just be South African or just looking at the rural women that I spoke of earlier from Limpopo. How can we broaden this to include women in philanthropy from all aspects of philanthropy, from grassroots? I know most people don't like the word grassroots, day-to-day givers, to your high net worth individuals, and also having donors be in such a group. So that's how I started thinking of this group, and with the support from Prof, who is my manager, we decided, okay, let's look at starting an initiative. There was a lot of back and forth. Okay, what you're gonna do first? And I felt like this man is pushing me into things that I don't know. I want him to feed me the information, but he kept pushing to say, okay, what are you gonna do? What is it that your vision is about? So I started researching, talking to other people in the space, up to now where I am working with Halima Mohammed, who is quite vast in the space, helping me, and we have developed a business case on the Women in African Philanthropy initiative. We have already selected about 16 members for our steering committee who will help us develop this more and also advise us into what will be the trends, what we should focus on, and not to work in silos as well, and forming other partnerships. And on where, it's a huge summary. If I've missed something, Prof, I can always go back to it. Where we're heading to now, as I've said, we have selected a steering committee. We're going to be meeting with them hopefully before the end of May, and we will be dealing with some of the things that are already on the concept note or business case, just to see what is implementable for 2024-25, and also working with Professor Mati on the academic side to work on having modules that will focus on women in African philanthropy, and with another colleague of ours, George, who is focusing on the research element of it. So we want to make sure that there's going to be research that's focused on women in African philanthropy and modules. As you already know, that CAPS is focusing on African philanthropy, but there's no specific module or modules that are focusing on the women. So we want to make sure that is included in the CAPSI programs.
Okay, colleagues, thank you so much for that short but crispy introduction on some of our special initiatives. I don't think we'll be able to cover everything, but I just wanted to see if we can quickly turn the camera and just have those three people introduce themselves briefly. So maybe we start with you, Tsepo. Tell us who you are quickly. No, it's fine. They can do it from there. Okay. Yeah. You don't have to move, Prof. Matt. It's fine.
The drum.
Okay, hello guys. My name is Tsepo Lohoko. I just recently joined the CAPSI team as well, and as a research administrator, and also to help in the administration tasks in the office. Initially, I'm from Northwest University Business School. I graduated recently with my postgraduate diploma in management, and yeah, that's all about me.
Okay, we can move it to, is it offensive? Yeah. Meanwhile, quickly, if you can move to the front so that we can see you.
The light can see you.
Hello guys, my name is Offense Matena.
I'm from Pretoria. I graduated last year at the University of Johannesburg, whereby I backed my degree in public management and governance. I also have a certificate on African insights, which makes me happy because of philanthropy is about contemporary issues. And I'm very happy to be joining the CAPSI team as a research administrative assistant. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Qoqeka.
My name is Qoqeka Sibuta. I'm based at Springs. I've recently joined the CAPSI team. I've been with the WBS before, as I was an intern in finance and also an admin in the admissions building or office. I have national diploma in financial management, and I'm looking forward to get more experience in the CAPSI department. And I've noticed that the CAPSI is a fastest paced environment. I need to get myself, I need to get out of the comfort zone. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So this was the segment dedicated to staff, but also staff introducing themselves, introducing the work that they do, but also introducing the programs of CAPSI. We could not cover everyone because some of the colleagues are not here. I mentioned some of the team members who are based in Ghana. Some of them are based elsewhere. Our research associates, including our visitors, our visiting professors, Professor Jerry Salol, who is based in Belgium, Tapesaki, who is based in Nigeria, Susan Maposa, who is based in Canada, I think. And so there's a whole lot of other team members that we did not have the opportunity to talk to. But this was really meant to introduce CAPSI members beyond the programs that we offer so that you can put face to the names. Thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time.
You've been listening to the CAPSI podcast series, Conversations on African Philanthropy.